So thanks everybody for reconvening. We have a special guest who's taken some time out of her schedule on the weekend, and I know she's always very busy. I can personally account for that. I want to introduce to you someone whose leadership and dedication is making a meaningful impact for families, students, and communities across Manitoba. I'd like to welcome Minister Renee Cable, the member of the Legislative Assembly for Southdale, which covers an area here in the southeastern part of the city. Renee was elected in October 2023, representing Southdale on Treaty 1 territory, and she currently serves as Manitoba's Minister of Advanced Education and Training. A portfolio where the focus is to open doors to post-secondary students and enhance learner experience and strengthen our local educational institutions, and a real focus on bridging diversity and bringing that lens into the public policy that governs our post-secondary institutions. So we're honored to have her here for this weekend as we center our conversations around identity, belonging, and empowerment, because aren't those the keys and the gifts of education? So please join me in welcoming Minister Renee Cable.
Good afternoon. I am truly honored to be here, and I know politicians say that all the time. But in this space with beautiful minds doing tremendously difficult work, I am honored to be invited. Thank you, Auntie, for extending the invitation, and grateful that you folks are here doing this very important work. As Jamie said, thank you for the lovely introduction. My name is Renee Cable. I have the privilege of being the Minister of Advanced Education and Training. I also am a mom of two, and I will say that my experience as a parent very much helps shape how I approach this work every day. I'm honored to be here on behalf of Premier Canoe and Minister Nellie Kennedy, who was the first Islamic woman to be nominated or elected to the Legislative Assembly and then to serve in cabinet. I know she wanted to be here. I am her terrible stand-in. But it really is an honor to be here, and I have to first acknowledge the heaviness that is in the community right now. And I spent a good portion of this morning sort of thinking about what would be appropriate to say at a time when it's hard to hang on to hope. And from my small space in the provincial government and my small space as a member of Legislative Assembly, I want you to know how much we truly honor, respect, appreciate, and love all of you, and that we truly believe in equity, diversity, and inclusion, and that is not something that's going to be sacrificed or taken away in this province. I want you to know that I cannot imagine the pain that many of you are going through with families and friends being affected by horrible policies and horrible behaviors across the world. But I extend my love. I will continue to extend my love, and I will continue to stand up for the rights of all Manitobans. That's a heavy way to start a lunch, but I feel like if I didn't say that, then I wouldn't be able to continue on here. So I am, again, honored to be here, and I've had the privilege of knowing Auntie for a few years, and just encountered a conversation with a journalist at the back where he said that on one of his first meetings that she directed him to do something. And I love that. And I love the continued attempts to build bridges with folks from different communities, the continued attempts to bring truth to conversations, and opportunities to really highlight the phenomenal young people that are in the Islamic community in this province. So can I ask who here is from Manitoba? Great. And folks from Quebec, welcome. Bienvenue. Ontario, wonderful. And British Columbia, did I hear somebody's from British Columbia? Well, they're missing out. Any other, from other parts of Canada right now? Saskatchewan, Alberta. So, you as well? Saskatchewan. So, I may pose a question back, which I know was not the plan, but I'm sure that you spend enough time listening to people talk at you. So I'm wondering if you can tell me in your provinces, if anyone would be brave enough to volunteer in your provinces, if you feel as though there are specific things that are being done by your government representatives or by community groups that let you feel as though you belong, that you are respected and honored, and that your voices are being heard.
The opposite.
The opposite?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you speak a little bit more?
Well, it's the opposite. In Quebec, there's the Bill 21, La Loi 21, which means that technically if you work for a province, basically like if you want to be like, okay, wait. I'm doing a bachelor in education, and because of that, I can't wear hijab. So that's why I'm not wearing it. So I can be a teacher and wear hijab. It's a law. It's literally a law. So there's a lot of teachers that went to Ontario to either study in the Ottawa University or to practice. So yeah, that's what it's yeah.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
I will say that. I am so sorry. Is there anyone else from another jurisdiction where you feel like there are great things happening?
I feel like there's great things at the grassroots.
Okay.
Sometimes you feel a bit more apathetic when you look at like more broader policies, but you know, I'm always very happy to see funding for local groups that bring people together, community events, trying to bridge gaps for young youth to help them get employment. I love to see what's at the grassroots. It gives me hope.
I completely agree, and you know, there are deep connections between Indigenous communities here and Islamic folks. There are many similarities, as there are as many differences, and I am proudly Red River Métis. My social group has been largely Indigenous. All of the things that come along with being Indigenous in this country have been part of my family history. And one of the big focuses that we have as a government right now, or particularly in my portfolio, is how do we ensure that Indigenous people in this province are really thriving in education spaces? What do we need to do? And I already heard it noted here that sense of belonging should be foundational for everyone. Not fitting in, i.e. removing your hijab, but belonging and knowing that you are honored as the person you are and that you can come as your entire self and belong in a space and be able to flourish. So I can say with confidence that when we look at larger policies, that is a lens that is considered all the time, because if we look at what's happening in broader society now, there's so much division that's really rooted in misinformation and hate. We need to bring back that sense of belonging for everyone. And that means not only celebrating, age, gender, sexual orientation, but faith and culture, and allowing people to come as their whole selves so that we can be great as our whole selves. I want to bring it back to thank you for having the vision of ISA and seeing that in our communities that there is a need for that connection and that sense of belonging. I know that your work has brought things into post-secondaries. I'm a little older than I look, maybe. I say that as a sort of self-compliment. I'm older than I look. But when I was in university, there was a huge rise in Islamophobia. I was a student of political science when the attack of the World Trade Center came in. And it was a terrible, terrible time on campus. And it was a painful time for friends. It was a painful time for so many families. And I recall sitting with friends and talking about, how can we possibly change the conversation here? And how can we ensure that our friends, the people that we banter about international policy in the Commons, how can we make sure that the spaces are safe for them? And now there are many prayer rooms in many post-secondary institutions, which is a step forward. But I know that there is a continued feeling in some spaces of not being safe. And I don't want that. Our government does not want that. We want to ensure that everybody feels safe, protected, and valued. And again, I'm a mom, and I do not want my kids to be in a place where their friends aren't loved and valued. For those of you who are from other provinces, I'm going to make a shameless pitch here to say if you want to move to Manitoba, you are welcome. We have phenomenal community members here. We also, I will speak on behalf of other folks in our government, we value diversity, we value equity, we value inclusion, and we are not going to, regardless of the pressures that we have from other spaces in the world, our neighbors at times, we are not going to give that up. So if you're thinking about a place that you might want to come, and we can always use the talent. We're the only province, actually, here's the humble brag, that had positive in-migration. So people are coming here, and I want you to tell your friends and family that if things aren't great where you are, we'd be pleased to have you. I'll send a bus. And I want to thank you for the commitment to having these difficult conversations and spending your weekends and your emotional labor, I will say, in working through these really difficult issues, because it's so valuable, so valuable. I am happy to answer any questions that you might have for me, which was also not scripted. There you go.
I'm from Manitoba. I'm very new to Manitoba. And I do agree, it is indeed friendly Manitoba. But over the past 2 years, I've seen there's a need for us to start deconstructing words like equity, diversity, and inclusion. And 4 out of 5 times when I ask people what these words mean to them, nada. They're just words. DEI, IDEA. So for today, I want to take the humble opportunity to ask you, what does equity mean to you as a person?
As a person?
Yes.
So as each individual in this room, equity means something dynamic, and this is, I promise you this isn't a cop-out, but when I think of equity, it is, I will volunteer as well that I'm neurodivergent, so if I look like I am searching around for the words, I am one of the blessed late diagnosed ADHD persons, so I'm grabbing for the words. For me, equity is respect. It is equal treatment, not just to the letter of the law in terms of, we would be treated the same, but really an acknowledgement of social differences, financial differences. When people talk about, we need, I hear this a lot, we need more people from X group to participate here. And my first thought is that space safe for an individual from a different social group, a different economic group, a different cultural group to participate there. If we invite those folks and designate a spot, what does that mean for them? Are they going to face discrimination? Are the quiet conversations going to happen around them and not include them? Like we're looking at board composition at universities right now. And one of the things is we're talking about a minimum level of participation from particular groups. And immediately I think about, okay, well that's wonderful. So I could say, you know, we would like you to be on this board and we would like you to participate. What are we doing to change the culture in that board? What are we doing to ensure that the processes are transparent? And how do we ensure that we are not actually causing harm to an individual by asking them to participate? So I think that maybe throws it all together, but at the end of the day, I want to know that you and I and you are treated equally under the law, given equal opportunity with consideration for all of those other pieces that brought us to the place that we are. There's a reason why there are not very many people of color in government at the elected level. There's a reason why there aren't a whole lot of women. There's a reason why it's taken this long to have a First Nations premier. And it's not because people didn't try. We all know this. It's not because of that. It's a collection of factors that have weighed in. And when we get over the assumptions that we make about how things ought to be and open our minds to how things could be, it's limitless potential, limitless. I truly believe that.
Thank you. So your responsible tells me everyone in the room has to keep themselves accountable. When you go back home, ask yourself what equity means to you as a person in this room, so that you can hold your leaders accountable. Right? So those are just my 2 cents, and thank you so much for answering that question.
I'm sorry it was a long path around.
It was pretty long. Yeah.
Renee, I want to say something. I don't like the word inclusion. And I'll tell you why. It brings to imagery of gatekeepers.
Yep,
Right?
that's fair.
Inclusive is okay with me because that means that your, as you said, your policies, your board, your all the other things that go in running a sector or a process is inclusive. But inclusion, I'm sorry, I don't like it, and I've said this all the way up to the Senate, that I do not appreciate it because it's just a slogan, really. So see if at the government level, you guys can think again and make it inclusive rather than inclusion. It will go a long way for accountability for the sector as well as for our participation in not something that, oh yes, come in, we've done you a favor, right?
Yeah.
Right. So just think about it.
Is there a word outside of inclusive that is even better?
That's your job.
That's an anti response.
Figure it out, lady.
I actually have I love, Auntie, what you said about that. I think the words, and I appreciate my sister's commentary. I teach at a university in Toronto, and I see from our youth on campus, they're not interested in DEI, they want justice.
Yeah.
And justice as individuals, justice as a collective, and it's a word that elected officials traditionally in the precedent has been said, shy away from. Mm-hmm. Because justice means different things to different people, but it shouldn't. There's like human rights basic laws that we universally want. I don't use DEI in any of my presentations or work because it's language that has been co-opted by disingenuous people. Justice is not a word you can throw out easily, just implore you to think that and take it back to your colleagues, to think about that. And particularly as people from Indigenous and First Nation communities, you know better than anybody how that doesn't get applied. But like, the kids are smart.
They're really smart.
They're all right and they're smart and they have been suppressed in levels that we've not seen before, particularly in the last almost 2 years. DEI is not a thing. Nobody wants a seat at the table. They've already built their own tables. They want justice.
I appreciate that. I will follow up by saying that I don't use those words regularly. And it really is top of mind because of what's happening in the US right now. And that there is a directive to dismantle anything that might allow opportunities for people who aren't white, upper middle class to participate in the world. I stand with you on the word justice. And now I'm going to get political, which I'm not supposed to do when I'm out, but here we are. You know, I'm a New Democrat for a reason, and our values are rooted in social justice. And that you know, the roots were in labor, also the Christian gospel, which is, you know, you treat others how you want to be treated. It's not super complicated. But also that we should strive to work towards a world where we can give according to our ability and take according to our need. And this is, you know, when you talk about justice, 100%. And as we see the wedge between the rich and the poor, that wealth disparity continue to grow, there has to be something that we can do to stop that. And I firmly believe it's rooted in spaces like this, in small acts of kindness where we take care of our neighbors, when people are evacuated because of fires, making sure that we donate as we're able to, offer a helping hand to bring people in. They may be disparate concepts on the surface, but they're fully interrelated. It's seeing the humanity in one another and just really believing that that's the root of all of it. Hi.
Hi. I just want to say thank you for being here. I think this is like a great opportunity to talk to different members of the NDP government that we have. I'm a Manitoban, and I was thinking about what you said earlier, which is like, what do your politicians do to make you feel loved? I think a lot of Muslims, unfortunately, are not feeling very loved or a sense of belonging because we're asking for our government leaders to push for a permanent and immediate ceasefire in Gaza, and we feel like that's not being pushed to the center of the table. Unfortunately, it's been 2 years and we haven't seen a change. So, for lack of a better question, is what can you do in your role to push this forward to make this happen?
So our government did call for a ceasefire many months ago. As a provincial government, I think we've been pretty clear on that. It is, I don't know if you folks have been in this situation before where you have the privilege of having, I will speak for myself in this moment. Some days, the weight of knowing that I occupy a role that is such a privilege and that my ancestors would never have dreamt. You know, they lived on road allowance and didn't have access to education. My ancestors would never have dreamt that I would be in this position, but also knowing that the level of influence that I have is, you know, but I will take that back, and I will speak with my colleagues, because I do think it's important, if that message is not getting out, that we continue to say that it's time.
Yeah.
It's beyond time.
We need more politicians to be more vocal about this. We need politicians to be on Twitter, on Instagram, within their circles to be spreading this information, getting this information out there. So
Beta, I just want to add, Premier Wab Kanu was in Toronto, where he was recognized by Palestinian Lebanese families. And his speech is on Instagram. I would recommend that you guys watch it. He spoke very clearly on his stance about the environment where they cannot speak, but they show it by action. By bringing the Palestinian families here, whose children needed treatment. He also talked about that we are working on bringing more children and families here. He spoke about his time in Yemen when he was working there, and a lot of other things, and was very, very open and frank about it, of the fine rope that they walk, right?
That's a wonderful start.
I
Yeah,
suppose.
that's a wonderful start, yeah.
Yeah. So inshallah, I stay in touch with them. I stay in touch with Renee and also our minister Nelly. She gave a very strong statement in the legislature on this Gaza issue. So I think you have your hand up for a while. Okay, go ahead.
Hi. So I'm graduated from the University of Manitoba, but I've been part of a student club, which is Muslim Student Association. I've been there since external, since like 2 years. And one thing that you said was really connecting right now. You talked about 9/11 and how the dynamics changed, right? And you also did mention that how since then there has been a progression of how Muslim students are getting more space to pray as well. So those two things I want to talk about. Over the years after October 7th, about the whole attack in Gaza, the Islamophobia has risen again, and there were more Muslim students, not in general, but in the University of Manitoba, who got more affected. There were students from Palestine who were getting affected, but did not get that specific treatment as well. More Muslim students were getting suspended, so the track was kind of going backwards. So we've been trying to advocate as much as we can for the Muslim students, but at the end of the day, we're still students. We've been having meetings with EDI, with our Dean of Equity, with our, I'm forgetting his name, but most of the admins, we've been meeting with them, talking about
Dr. Tina Chen?
Tina Chen, and then Lori Shinar as well, I forgot her title. But we've been meeting with them on and off for so many years, 2 years, months and months, to talk about Islamophobia. But then other thing was to have more space, because there are more and more students coming on campus. And now, as I'm speaking, we had emailed our president, Michael Benaraj, as well. Not a lot is happening. We're still a student club, but we're serving thousands of Muslim students who are on a rise. There are more Muslim students coming in, and they're feeling deprived. They're not feeling that they're getting heard. They're not feeling that they're getting appreciated. And me and my team being on the front hand, we're meeting with so many admins, but nothing is happening. We've been stuck in that same loop, same conversations, same emails, same hellos, same goodbyes, but no effects are coming in. So I do want to know, as someone who is a student on University of Manitoba, as someone in a position of power, how can you help Muslim Student Association to grow more and have a better space to just pray and to have a space, safe space to actually come to school and feel appreciated, not feel separated because of the instances going around the world?
So I appreciate you raising that. This is one of the frustrations in this role as well, I will say, is that because we uphold academic freedom and the independence of the institutions, which is also under attack in many, many other jurisdictions, it is a fine line to walk. So I would never be able to actually provide a directive to the University of Manitoba, but I certainly will raise it with them and say that it was raised with me, that it is something that they should consider with the expanding population. Again, I cannot direct them to do it, but I will raise it as something that has been brought here, if that works for you.
Yeah.
There's a hand up.
Just as a quick follow-up to that, I know there's not going to be a solution, but I would hope that it's on the government's mind that there needs to be protections for people who are willing to speak out on these things and who want to be vocal about these things. Because there are students, there are employees, there are participants in publicly funded spaces like our universities, like workplaces, that are losing opportunities, that are being threatened with the loss of opportunities for choosing to be vocal about what's going on in Gaza. Yes. So I know that there's no one's going to have a solution right now, but it's in the medical school, it's in the dental school, it's in all the programs at the University of Manitoba. It's in the news, people are talking about it, and students are still getting threatened, people are still losing their jobs in publicly funded institutions. So.
And that's impacting the mental health. That is our concern in our organization. The counseling has shot up, especially with you. And being a grandmother with a kid, just first grandkid entering university, I'm really concerned about their ability to continue to be participants. Because that's what takes away their self-othering.
Yeah.
We never had this before, not even after 9/11, right? they are now self-othering because they seem to think nobody is listening to their pain, nobody is validating their pain. Actually, they are being stigmatized, they are being kicked out, literally, from schools and stuff like that. I had just recently an example where a youth was sent home, young person, 12 years old, because he said something in Hebrew which didn't really mean anything. It was a holiday that he took name. And he was reported to the principal that he's anti-Semite. And I'm talking to the parent, I'm going, what the heck is going on, right? And now we have a new curriculum that's coming out on anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is real. Nobody's denying it. But do not make a criticism of Israel anti-Semite. That is wrong. There's a difference between Judaism, which we, as Muslims, bless Prophet Moses. He is our example for justice and all that, just as we do for Prophet Jesus. But we don't, there is a distinction between Zionism and Judaism. Zionism is a political ideology. And it's the Christians who started Zionism, by the way. Right? We need to teach that history in our schools and our universities, because unless we don't, these kind of issues that the young people are talking about will keep coming up.
Yeah.
Right? We did the same with the indigenous.
Yeah.
I mean, the new generation, they didn't even know what their forefathers went through because indigenous education was not part of it, and I still think it's not part of our thing. So we need to really, well, someday we will have a sit down and see, because there is a pathway to solutions. But right now emotions are so high, the pain is so high, that people are not being able to sit down and talk about it. So please keep an eye on that anti-Semitism education that's coming up.
Okay.
We are going to be meeting with the minister as well, with the Jewish community as well, because it's very, very problematic. It's going to divide our youth. It's going to completely divide. So I think we are ready for lunch. You're staying for lunch,
Wonderful.
right?
Yeah, if you
Yeah,
want.
so then we can continue the conversation.
I'm sorry to
guys.
keep you from your lunch.
Well, you're welcome to join us and
Yeah,
keep these conversations going. So thank you, Minister Cable. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sweetie. It was